All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Perfecting Your Pitch Conference Speaker Application Tutorial webinar. We are going to give everybody, a good like 2 or 3 minutes and let everybody file in. We're getting some good numbers already. So we're excited today to walk you guys through our call for speakers and answer some Q&A. Really quick, we are going to have Q&A at the end of this. Our chat function is disabled, so you cannot use our chat. So make sure that you jump into that Q&A button. And if you want to type your questions at any point in time from now till the end of the webinar, please jump in, use that Q&A button, type in your question, and we will absolutely get to that question at the end of the chat. So, all right, we're going to give it a few more minutes and let people jump in. We've got just shy of 100 people right now. So we'll get started in about 3 minutes. Okay, for those that are just joining, I see the numbers going up. Welcome to the Perfecting Your Pitch Conference Speaker Application tutorial. We are just giving it a few more minutes to let people jump in because those numbers keep climbing. So that's great. We're going to have a great webinar today, go through some really fun insights for our call to speakers that just opened this week. So again, as a reminder, that Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom is where you're going to put in questions. At any point in time in the webinar, if you have questions, pop into that Q&A and we will definitely have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar and get to all of your questions. So feel free to pop your questions in there at any time. All right, the numbers keep climbing, guys. I'm waiting for the numbers to level off. Let's give it maybe 1 or 2 more minutes, but they keep climbing, so I know people keep joining, which is great. All right, let's jump in. So, hey, everybody, happy Friday. First of all, welcome to the Perfecting Your Pitch Conference Speaker Application Tutorial. My name is Emily Lewis. I am the SVP and brand leader for MJBiz. I'm super excited to be here. I really want to go through really quick why it's really important to be a speaker at MJ. There are a few reasons why speaking in MJBiz is a really valuable opportunity for you guys. So industry recognition. MJBiz has been coined as the Super Bowl of cannabis. We know that it closes out our cannabis year. We know that everyone that's anyone in the industry from seed to sell shows up at MJBiz. So being selected as a speaker puts you in a position as a thought leader in our industry. It's also a great networking opportunity. You would be surprised the amount of questions and people and connections that you can make just being on that MJBiz stage, because we attract a really diverse audience. So it's really great networking for you, for your business, for your personal brand. It also showcases your expertise in the industry. So by presenting your unique perspective on a subject matter, it not only contributes to our industry, but it showcases your skills and your personal expertise. It increases your visibility, whether that's for your brand, for maybe a new product, a new service, maybe it's for your personal brand, maybe it's for something that you're researching scientifically. It increases the visibility being on the MJBiz stage. And then obviously just engaging with the community. We've had so many speakers that will do really fun surveys, or they'll do little like informal roundtables where maybe they're trying to capture audience insight for something that they're trying to do in the coming year. And it's a really good way of doing that at MJBiz. Again, it is the Super Bowl of cannabis. And so we have everyone from all walks of the industry, from that first timer up to the CEOs and the CFOs of, the big MSOs. So it's a great and very valuable opportunity to become a speaker at MJ. So I'm going to take this time to introduce Chris Olson. Chris Olson is our conference content producer, and Chris is the one that really is so thoughtful with our team of advisory board, our media and editorial team, our conference team. He's very thoughtful in putting together the topics every single year for MJBiz. So Chris is going to be your best knowledge base. So Chris, I want to ask you a few questions because I'm sure that this group is ready to hear what you're thinking about highlighting this year.
Yeah, thanks, Emily, and thanks everyone for joining. So I want to first discuss the tracks that we're highlighting this year. These are kind of the overarching topics that we're looking to cover in our programming. And after the webinar, we will send out a PowerPoint with all of this information. So if you miss something, you'll have all of this in one location. So the tracks this year that we're profiling are finance and banking, Cannabis Business 101, which includes introductory topics for folks that are newer to the industry, marketing, branding, public relations, and advertising, cannabis science and medicine. With cannabis science, a lot of times we focused on the strict science of different topics as it relates to cannabis, but we'd also like to talk about the medical applications of cannabis and feature more topics there. Policy and regulatory compliance are always very in demand topics, and we cover domestic and international issues as it relates to policy. Ancillary business services, anyone that supports the plant touching side of the industry, manufacturing, processing, and distribution. Of course, cultivation, we have to discuss cultivation, retail marketing and operations, and lastly, psychedelics.
Awesome, Chris. So I heard a few changes in there and just wanted to highlight those. So when we're talking about science, it sounds like you're going to take a medicinal approach as well, which may be different from the past. It sounds like you're highlighting some of the medical market this season.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that, Emily. That is something that it's not necessarily a change, but it is more of an area of focus this year is
Okay.
the medical and therapeutic applications of cannabis.
Okay. Okay. And then when it comes to some of the tracks like Cannabis Business 101, can you give us some examples of maybe some topics within Cannabis Business 101 that you think are going to be really important?
Yeah, I think it's the important things like how to win a license, how to build a brand that resonates with consumers, how to overcome the regulatory hurdles in our industry. Those topics that, like I said, are more applicable to the newer folks in the industry.
Okay. Okay, great. So for that, and this would be my opinion, but you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. It sounds like somebody that has recently gone through that or is opening new businesses would be the ideal person to be able to talk about, hey, this is what I did with my license, or this is how I bought a new license or sold my license, or this is how I'm running my retail store. Um, are those some of the types of conversations that you're looking for?
Yeah, that's a great point. This is applicable to the new folks that haven't worked in the industry, but maybe you are operating in an existing market and you're looking to go to a new state.
Oh,
That's
okay,
also
good one.
information that we will want to highlight.
Okay, okay, that's a good call out there.
Mhm.
So when someone is applying, which presentation formats do you consider?
Yeah, so there's three different types of formats. Of course, a solo presentation where you're on stage giving a TED Talk style presentation. We also do panel discussions, which would include up to four panelists, and one of those would be designated as the moderator to have a discussion around the proposed topic. And this could include a fireside chat where we have a moderator and a solo panelist. And then the
Okay.
third one is a newer format that we're going with this year, where we're doing moderator-led roundtables, where we'll have discussions around specific topics that are very pressing in the industry. A lot of times these are issues that may be a little tough and complex that we need a robust discussion around and potentially come out of that discussion with potential solutions to that problem that we're discussing.
Okay. So when someone is applying, is it to their benefit if on their application they explain to you, "Hey, I'm thinking that this is a TED style talk, a keynote, or you know what, this topic is really a complex topic, and maybe we think about this being a moderator-led roundtable." Does it help if they explain that to you or they outline that for you?
That would be helpful, as much information as
Okay.
possible. In the
Okay.
application, you'll see that we do have a drop-down box for the format. But in the session description, if you do want to include those details about how you're thinking about presenting this topic, we'd love as much information as possible.
Okay. Okay. Um, So let's jump into understanding how you select speakers. So talk to me about how does MJBiz select speakers? What is that process?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I am the point person for the programming, but this is very much a team effort. We pull in the marketing team, the MJBiz daily editorial staff. We also have an advisory committee where we develop the leading topics that we'd like to profile this year. And once we
Hmm.
develop that, we start plugging in the speakers based upon those leading topics. And this is after we go through a process where we score all of the applications. It's an objective process that we go through. And then, of course, we pick the leading topics in those areas that we'd like to highlight.
Okay. And we have mentioned, I mentioned it earlier, and you had mentioned that, this isn't a decision that is made by one person. It sounds like there's the entire editorial staff of MJBiz, the conference staff, an advisory committee. Like it sounds like it's a unified group effort when it comes to looking through these applications.
Very much so. We want this to be an objective process, a process where there's just not, one or two folks making the decisions here, that we really are working as a team to highlight the best proposals that we're receiving. And of course, highlighting the leading topics that are of concern in the industry.
And when the selection committee is reviewing applications, what are they looking for?
Great question. Um, uh, Most importantly, or of importance, is racial and gender diversity. That we have that considered when a topic is proposed. Along with that is diversity of perspective. Does the presentation provide a holistic view on that
Hmm.
topic?
Hmm.
Do we feel like there's enough voices on there to highlight the topic in a way that we feel like should be highlighted? This is very important. We look for proposals that highlight thought leadership over marketing the speaker's product. A lot of
Hmm.
times, the communication around your product will come through, but if it feels like it's an overt pitch for your product, we may not go
Mm,
with that proposal.
okay.
Let's focus on your thought leadership in the industry, why you feel like you're the most important voice in your sector of the industry, and we're going to try to highlight those folks that are those thought leaders. We also
Okay.
want presentations. We also want presentations to communicate actionable intelligence. Is this knowledge that folks can actually take back to their business and use now? Technical skills that folks need as they run their business. That's what we're really looking for. Cutting edge topics that haven't been covered recently at MJBizCon are something that the committee looks for. And of course, topics that aren't too niche. We want the topics to try to reach as wide of an audience as possible.
Okay. So what I'm gathering from that is no brand stories, that this is not necessarily about your brand or your recent product. If that works its way into the topic because it is cutting edge innovation or a cutting edge finding, then that's fantastic. But no brand stories. I'm also hearing that if there is a presentation that has worked its way through the trade show circuit over the course of the last 6 or 8 months, that's not a topic that you're going to be interested in.
No, we'll want to, if we do, it's going to be the next evolution of that discussion. Has
Okay.
this topic progressed enough where there's new ground to cover? That's something that we're also looking for. We don't want to rehash the same topics over and over again. If we do go back to a topic, we want to make sure that there's a fresh perspective on that.
Okay. And just so that we can help those that are here today choose the best topic and have the best chance of being on stage at MJBizCon, can you tell us what topics you feel like right now are most in demand that you're looking for?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And this list, if I don't mention something, it doesn't mean that we don't feel like it's a priority, but these are a few topics that we know we really want to highlight this year. AI is a topic that is important, to society right now, but also in the cannabis industry. So how is the industry using AI, in their businesses? Customer acquisition and retention, always an important topic. Anything related to that we want to discuss. This industry moves so quickly, or it used to, when it comes to policy and regulatory updates. So there's new ground to cover there every year. There's new states opening up, new regulations to discuss. So any of those updates, we'd love to hear from you on those. As I mentioned earlier, those cannabis business 101 topics, more kind of intro topics. We'd love to receive some proposals on those topics. Hemp-derived cannabinoids. This is an area of focus that we'd love to highlight a little bit more this year. We've done that in the past, but hemp-derived cannabinoids are becoming a larger part of the industry. So of course, we need to highlight that sector of the industry. We also want to talk about, we always talk about cultivation. And I think, in the past, maybe it's leaned heavy into plant science and how to increase your yield, all very important topics. But I think there's areas to focus on the business of cultivation. How do you find buyers for your products, have partners, the productization of what you're growing. That is an area of focus that we want to highlight this year. And then lastly, cannabis consumption and tourism is becoming a bigger issue in the industry. That sector is consistently growing every year. There's a lot of innovative business models around that. So that's something we would also love to highlight.
Okay, that's all really good information. And to your point, Chris, just because there wasn't something mentioned doesn't mean that you shouldn't submit. If you are hearing that is a topic in the industry that should be discussed, please, don't hesitate, but just giving you a leg up on some of the things that the team is looking for. So I think sometimes it's more important to talk about what not to do. So let's talk about like some of those common mistakes that applicants make when submitting an application.
Yeah, I would love to do that. So one of the big things I see is that a proposal will highlight a problem in the industry, but it won't necessarily prevent a solution to that. Everything that we feature, we want that actionable intelligence that gives you the knowledge that you need to know to overcome that problem and put the solution into action. A lot of times, if there is a solution presented, the solution will primarily feature the potential speaker's product. And I think there's room for this, but if it's an overt marketing pitch for your product, that topic most likely won't get selected. A common mistake that I often see is an application just lacks clear learning objectives. It sounds great, but I'm really just not understanding what this potential speaker wants to communicate to our audience. And related to that is feeling like the potential speaker doesn't have a potential target audience in mind for that topic. And that we don't get the sense that the potential speaker understands our audience. So that's a big part of what we look for. And as I mentioned earlier, making a topic too niche, some topic that will really only resonate with a small segment of our audience.
Okay, those are all good, helpful hints. I will always add the takeaways for the audience. I think putting yourself in the shoes of someone that's sitting in the audience, and I think we all sit in an audience wanting a tangible takeaway or a tangible learning moment. So that's a good one, making sure that you have a clear objective and a clear takeaway. How can people make their proposal stand out? from the competition? Like what, or any insights and like an edge up?
Yeah, what I look for is this person effectively communicating to me why they're a thought leader in their sector of the industry? That will read in the proposal of, they're the leading expert on, let's say, pest management, and they've
Mm-hmm.
communicated to me why they're a thought leader on that topic. Um, as I mentioned earlier, that needing that actionable, intelligent, those technical skills, they're discussing those things. They're
Mm-hmm.
communicating to me what it is that the attendees will learn as it relates to actionable intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another thing that I would love to see, or that I love to see in proposals, is getting back to that diversity of perspective, that a
Mm-hmm.
speaker is recruiting their partners or customers to serve as panelists
Mm-hmm.
to round out that panel and provide insight into that topic from different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not giving it from their perspective. And then lastly, the potential speaker has a clear understanding of our audience. We're B2B. That's our
Mm-hmm.
audience, and most of our programming needs to resonate with that audience.
Okay. So getting back to the business of cannabis for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so I think one thing that would be really helpful, Chris, is if you can show the audience what it looks like to actually submit an application, because maybe there's just some confusion going through our system and how to submit. So I think you're going to show us how to actually walk through a submission process.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Can you see my screen, Emily?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the screen that you'll see when you pull up the link for the call for proposals. It's an overview of what we're looking for. These are those tracks that I highlighted earlier. Gives you a little bit of information on MJBizzCon. MJBizzCon 2025 will take place from December 2nd to December 5th. We do go into some speaker expectations and benefits. The benefits of speaking at MJBizzCon are that you receive 2 nights hotel reservation at a partner hotel, as well as a VIP conference and expo hall registration. And the expectations of speakers are that you share digital marketing assets before the event and get your appearance at MJBizzCon as much as you can. And that you're also asked to participate in one planning meeting before the event to make sure that we're all on the same page um, for the presentation, and that you've thought it through and that you feel ready to speak on stage. Um, we were going to get into this, but I'll mention it here. The deadline for submitting a proposal is Friday, April 11th. So you'll click through. I'm already logged in, but you'll be asked to create a login. And then we go into the things that we need for the proposal. A snappy title would be great. What you're looking to discuss, give us an overview of that. And then the description is the really important part. At bare minimum, we need a 1 paragraph overview of the discussion. But if you also, along with that description of what you would like to cover, possibly present 5 to 7 learning objectives that you could bullet out here, that you're communicating to us that this is what the attendees will understand if I do give this presentation. And then below, we discuss the format. So this is, like we said, the solo presentation, fireside chat, and panel discussion. I'm realizing right now we need the moderator-led roundtable that will be a selection that we'll add to there. And then the presentation topic here below. Those are the parts that you'll select as you go through. So I'm just going to do some quick, just select something. And then you'll get into your speaker information. This is just all the information that we need to start working with you, your bio, your address, all of this information. We'd love your LinkedIn profile. And if you want to add more than one speaker, if you're doing a panel, you'll just add that person here and you can put all of their information in. If you're submitting on behalf of someone else, make sure to put your name in representative name and put your email address there. The information up top is for the speaker. But of course, if you're submitting on someone's behalf, we want to know who you are and how to get in touch with you. So make sure to include all of the required information that we have here. If I had all this information put in, it would go to a submission screen letting you know that your submission has been accepted. And that's it. Those all information. That's all the information that we need to consider your proposal.
Okay, great. So it seems pretty easy. Doesn't seem too overly complicated. What can applicants expect after submission?
Great question. So we're keeping the call for proposals open, as I mentioned, until Friday, April 11th. After we close that out, we will spend all of April reviewing the speaker applications with the marketing team, with editorial staff, with our advisory committee, scoring those proposals, reviewing them, and then ultimately selecting the folks that are selecting the proposals that we feel are the leading topics. And we'll start reaching out to speakers, whether you've been accepted or denied. We'll start doing that in May.
Okay. So will a speaker know whether they're going to be accepted or denied by the end of May?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone will be
Okay.
communicated with if you've been accepted or denied. And if you have been accepted, we'll let you know of the process, after that, the things that we'll need to get you onboarded.
Okay. So if a speaker is accepted, are there a few really important things to make sure that that speaker is confirmed that you need from that speaker?
Yeah. So when someone is accepted, we send out a speaker agreement to that speaker. And if we can get that back as quickly as possible, that would be great. We can't market your appearance at MJBizzCon until we have that, and we can't start working on the registration or the hotel reservations until we have a signed agreement. And then after we do that, we'll start sending out the marketing assets over the summer, and then we'll start holding speaker planning meetings in September.
Okay. Okay. So applications are open now. They close in April. You make a decision by the end of May, and then speakers will have to get back their speaker agreements. They'll start receiving marketing assets to be able to market. But then in September is when you're going to do the planning meetings, going over their presentation with them.
Correct. And usually those take, with all the sessions that we have, they usually take about a month and a half. So we'll start in September, but they'll most likely go into October.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. What are some of the biggest takeaways from those applications that have just won you over? Immediately when you saw an application and you said, I have to have this speaker at MJ, are there any like takeaways from those that just get you immediately?
Yeah, I think if it just pops out of the proposal that this is thought leadership over marketing, love those proposals. If it just feels like it's a marketing pitch for this potential speaker's product, it's most likely not going to get selected. So making sure we're highlighting that thought leadership. There's clear learning objectives and an understood audience for this programming that you're developing. And lastly, that the topic isn't too niche, that it's going to be important to most in the cannabis industry. Those are the proposals that we're looking for.
Okay. And then one thing that we haven't covered is if someone wants to apply, where do they go to apply?
Yeah, so you go to www.mjbizconference.com, and you'll find a link there to submit your application.
Okay. And then if they have additional questions, I'm imagining, Chris, they can reach out to you.
Yeah, so my email address is chris.olson@mjbiz.com. My last name is spelled Olson. So it's chris.olson@mjbiz.com. I'm happy to answer any questions about the process of submitting an application. If you have any issues with the application itself. Unfortunately, due to the high volume of emails that I do receive, I won't be able to give feedback on specific topics as to, uh, it being a priority or providing
Hmm.
specific feedback there. But anything related to the process, I'm happy to help you out with.
Okay, great. So I know we have quite a few questions in the Q&A box, and I'm going to turn it over to Lena now, who is a marketing manager at MJBiz, to go through our Q&A. While she's going through the Q&A, I'm going to type in the chat. I'll give you guys the link, and I'll put Chris's email in the chat just so you guys have it. But let's get to these questions. There's some good ones in here. So I'll turn it over to Lena.
Yeah, there are a few that we can sort of group together, but I think just going off of the topics of like what we're looking for, I think we see from Tim Gunther um, on the speaker application, do we have to have the presentation completely done or do we need more of an outline?
I would have it as finalized as possible before you submit that,
Oh,
just to make sure we have all of the information that's possible. And maybe it's just before you actually get into the application, you think about that title and those learning objectives beforehand. That's the really important part, and the part that will probably take the most time on your part. Um, so yeah, get everything wrapped up before you get into the application.
yeah, definitely. And then like some people are asking, can we submit multiple speaking applications based on a variety of topics? Or do they just submit one for all?
You can submit multiple applications. Yeah, that's fine.
Got it, got it. All right. And then another question from Tim, um, similar to that, like multiple topics can be discussed, separate presentations to be considered. I guess that answers that question as well.
Mhm.
I guess from Ashley, what makes a good thought leader that you would consider?
It's, me getting the sense that, as I mentioned with the example of pest management, that you're one of a handful of folks in the industry or maybe even the world that knows how to discuss this topic. Put it plainly, you know the most about this topic more than anyone else, and you've effectively communicated to me why you are that person. I
Definitely.
was, something of an example, I was the leading researcher on um, this uh, specific pest management method, or mitigation effort. If you're presenting leading research on that topic, obviously, you're a thought leader. Or if your company has even done any research on that topic, discuss that and talk about why you're leading in the industry on that specific topic.
Okay. And then from Guy, is the keynote selected from these applications or is that a completely different process?
We do consider those folks, but it is kind of a parallel process that we're working on, as we, to put it plainly, we consider folks outside of the proposals that we receive.
Okay. Got a lot more coming in here. From Angelique, can you speak to the DEI efforts in curating your speakers, women-owned, women-run representation specifically, comparison to other industry conferences? They have different ways of representing diversity, sometimes slotting them in the last day of the sessions. How does MJ Biz sort of manage DEI representation across its panels?
Yeah, it's just making sure that there is representation on these panels, and that we've also consulted with our partners in the industry that can help us make sure that we do have a diverse speaker lineup. And really, it's starting from right after the previous show ends, and doing that thought. We don't wait till the last minute really for anything as it relates to speaker recruitment. So that's not something we do. So it's a team effort to make sure that we have a diverse speaker lineup, internally and externally, to make sure that we've done our homework, to make sure that we are representing everyone in the industry.
Yeah, and then piggybacking kind of off of that, just representing ideas globally, right? So will the focus from Janika, will the focus of the event be on USA only, or will there be presentations on international markets as well? I know in the past we have had international focus tracks, and can we anticipate that coming back this year?
Yeah, that's a great question. We love to feature domestic and international policy related topics, or even kind of uh, discussions about the state of those markets. If it's a newer market, folks want to know, how do I get involved there? We want to do a presentation about what's happening in that market and how you can get involved. So yeah, of course, we're definitely profiling international and domestic topics this year. We bring in folks from all over the world, so we need to make sure we have programming that caters to them.
Definitely. From Shauna, she goes, I know all areas of the cannabis industry attends MJBiz and they do. But what sectors specifically attend the conference sessions? Who usually is the target audience for the different sectors and the different sessions that we host?
We're a big tent event. We cater to every sector of the industry. So it sounds like a cop-out answer, but really it's everyone. We have newer folks that are just entering into the industry that want to learn more, as well as the industry veterans that have been here, 10 plus years. I look at the data, I look at the feedback. It's really everyone. So we need to make sure our programming caters to every facet of the industry.
Yeah, definitely. I am seeing several questions all along the lines of if you're submitting different proposals, multiple proposals, are you able to sort of slot yourself in as an applicant? Is the conference team able to slot applicants in with other applicants, or do you have to come prepared with, a panel already, or will the conference team be sort of like putting applicants in where they fit?
Yeah, I think, if we have a proposal that has a well-rounded panel and we feel like all of those folks would be great on that, I think that's best case scenario for us. It takes off the work off of us of having to recruit additional folks for that panel. But it does happen where someone presents a solo presentation and maybe another person has presented a solo presentation on a similar topic. We will bring those folks in. And there have been cases where we just had one solo presenter and I will go out and find additional panelists to join that. But like I said, base case scenario, you've thought this through, the topic, the speakers, which gets to the diversity of perspective. The voices that you need on that panel, and that we don't need to step in to help do that. That's best case scenario.
One thing, Chris, I wanted to just chime in because I do think the question was very interesting about who attends the conference. And to your point, Chris, we really do have a wide variety from those first timers in the industry to the CEOs and the CFOs. I think when submitting your application, think about the tracks that Chris has outlined and what track you would want to sit under. And then really your presentation is going to bring the level that is needed. So if your presentation has to do with cultivation, but your cultivation talk is something that is really about maybe how the industry is being financed and what the future of that looks like, and maybe it's a higher level CEO CFO conversation, those are the people that are going to attend your conversation. So what we do is we have on our website a way for people to choose their own adventure and really choose the tracks that they want to attend. So that CFO might be attending different tracks across or different sessions across different tracks, because there are high level topic conversations within all of those tracks, versus the person that is new to the industry might choose several different tracks, but they're going to choose the sessions that are more of those entry level conversations. So I say all that to say that every conversation is valid, from the entry level all the way up to the CFO level, but your conversation and your topic is really going to determine who attends.
Definitely. Just typing in some answers in the chat. And just going back to those benefits for speakers. So every single panelist, every single speaker can guaranteed receive, all the, the hotel stays, the contract, the promotion, and everything along those lines. Like that's for every single speaker and every single panelist.
Yes, everyone receives a registration. The hotel, as I mentioned, it is at partner hotels. So it's not every hotel on the strip, but we have a wide range of hotels that are very satisfactory. I think it's very important that folks get in those reservations by the time that of our stated deadline. which we give plenty of time on that, but we can't guarantee a hotel after that stated deadline. And it may involve a situation where a person can't come, but we do need to make sure that we're meeting deadlines on the event side.
Like, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And then in terms of how is preference given to certain speakers? If you buy a booth, are you given preference? Or if you've spoken in the past, are you given preference or denied preference or anything like that? Like, how do we select, people in our community that have, other involvements in MJBizCon prior or in this year?
Yeah, I can say with 100% confidence that this is an objective process. We don't select speakers just because they're a sponsor or they're an exhibitor. Of course, there are thought leaders amongst the sponsors and exhibitors, and we do consider those folks and put them on stage. But I'm separate from the sales team, and I don't have there's no one pushing me to select folks that are sponsors and speakers, but I will consider them.
Definitely, definitely. And then going back to we're kind of jumping around, but I do see just specifically to cultivation, I know that's a big topic across all of our sectors. So tracks specific to cultivation, processing, and dispensary. You mentioned not to be too narrow on a topic, but there are some folks here that can cover, other parts of that industry, such as compliance or, addressing all three, cultivation, processing, and dispensary. How would you consider added value in terms of, standing out in those very general topics without being too narrow, but still sort of like answering that criteria, knowing that there's just so many topics, so many things to talk about in those, in those sectors.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'll take an example that you use, like cultivation compliance. Um, Most likely, given the limited amount of sessions that we do have to feature topics from all over the industry, we're probably only going to get a chance to feature one cultivation compliance topic. So the way I would think about it is amongst your community, amongst your cultivation compliance community, what is the leading thing that you're talking about? Like, what is the topic that always comes up? And this changes from year to year. And just think about, like, this year in my sector of this industry, what is top of mind to most folks there? I think those are, even though that's a niche topic, we're going to get most cultivation compliance folks to come out because it is top of mind and it's something that they want to discuss and learn more about.
Right. Got it, got it. And then I see two questions in regards to fireside chats. Brianna would like to co-present on a similar topic from two different perspectives. So it wouldn't be a panel, it would be two people speaking back and forth to each other. So is this something that is still suitable? And is there a platform for this at MJBizCon?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, if there's two separate topics and those folks are kind of discussing those two topics, that would be great. If they're proposing, like, okay, speaker A will get up and discuss this topic, and then speaker B will get up and discuss this topic, we probably won't go with something like that because it's not very engaging. And it's probably a topic that we want to combine together as opposed to giving two separate, like, spaces on the same session.
Yeah, I think the question was like same topic, same idea, same sort of thematic, but two different perspectives. Maybe someone from one side of the sector from, I don't know, consumer, and then one side from, business. But the nature of a fireside chat in terms of two people speaking to each other, is that something that we're open to, regardless of what the topic is? But I know we have panelists, but are we open to like, like a to like one-on-one discussion with someone?
Of course, yeah, I think we would consider that. With this example, it does feel like something we would want to push to a panel discussion. To me, fireside chat is more of an kind of interview style, conversational kind of thing, as opposed to a panel discussing a topic from different perspectives.
All right, all right. A lot of questions here. This is awesome. I love this. And apologies if we are jumping around, but again, well, and the topic of fireside chats. Is it possible to have a fireside chat in the consumption area or smoking section patio of MJBizzCon? Is there any content anticipated in that highly populated section of the show?
I'm glad this was brought up. I don't have any, I don't curate the content on the expo hall floor. That's a separate curated area. All of the programming that we're discussing here is part of our conference agenda that happens outside of the expo hall floor.
Awesome.
And just to further elaborate on that as well, the way that we look at our content across all of MJBiz is we have 3 tiers. So our highest tier are our forums. That tier is highly educational. It's super specific to a topic, a subject. And again, people are walking out of that day forum with educational takeaways. You walk into our conference, and that's on Tuesday. Then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday is our conference programming, which again is meant to be highly educational, industry experts, but also conversational with roundtables and panel discussions, more industry relevant. But still, the thought leaders are the ones that are on the conference. When you get to our expo floor, that is much more conversational and topic driven. And think about brand stories and personal stories. That's where the expo floor comes into play. So if you think about our tiers, it's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 are our forums, highly educational. Tier 2, very industry relevant thought leaders, conversational. And then tier 3 is our expo floor, where it's more personal and brand story driven.
Definitely. And then going back to sort of the nature of, how these formats can take place, I do have a cannabis chef in the chat asking if we can do um, a chef cannabis cooking demonstration during any speaking opportunities. As a culinary chef, they would love to educate, enlighten, and showcase a demo and take questions from the audience as they focus on edibles for health and wellness. Are we doing anything along those lines at the show?
The conference programming, we won't be able to do a demo. I think what we could do is, have a PowerPoint presentation with pictures and, discussing the process. But yeah, I'd love to, but just, logistical constraints would not allow us to do that.
Yeah, but I do see another comment from that, from that chef saying that they would love to resubmit their proposal to talk about, edibles and, cannabis culinary fine dining. I
Mhm.
think that could even tie into things like cannabis tourism, in some states where they
Mhm.
have consumption lounges like that. So I think
Yeah.
maybe something more along those lines would be a little bit more accepted, but trust me, unfortunately, no, we cannot have live demos on the show floor. Um,
But the way
look,
you presented it, Lena, is perfect. That's something we would look for.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Trying to see. So in terms of format of how these presentations take place, again, going back to what Emily mentioned, like the forums versus conference, Eric is asking, is there the ability to share presentations or photos if we're selected for a speaking presentation, versus forums versus like actual session panels? Is there an opportunity to literally have a presentation live and share photos of whatever they're speaking on?
Yeah, if it's, just taking pictures, posting on social media, that's not a problem. If it's getting into territory where we're talking about like live streaming it, we wouldn't be able to do something like that. Um, but yeah, of course, we want to have speakers talk about their experience of speaking at MJBizCon, giving updates from the show. That's always welcome.
Yeah. Oh, I think that question was more in line of like, I know in our forums, we have like a presentation like in the background while they're speaking to, like they're able to flip through a slideshow or something. And I know that that might be more towards forums, but on our like regular panels, they may or may not be able to do that. Is that true, or is that something
Uh,
that?
I understand. You do have the ability to display PowerPoint slides during any presentation, solo, or panel discussion. A lot of times with the panel discussions, I actually discourage use of PowerPoints. I think it can be a little distracting when you have so many folks on the panel, and we want the attention to be on them. Folks get distracted if there's too many things, PowerPoint and speakers talking. So, but that's completely up to the panelists. A lot of times there's some research or maybe images that folks want to display that they feel is very important to the topic. Of course, we'll help them present those.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And then two questions just sort of on the nature of like length and duration of these sessions, specifically for panel presentations. How long are those usually? And are they all uniform, like, say 40 minutes or so? Like, how long can we expect these panel presentations to be throughout the conference sessions?
Yeah, great question. So all of the presentations are 40 minutes, whether it's solo or a panel discussion. And typically it's 30 minutes of presentation, 10 minutes of Q&A. If you want to do 35 minutes of presentation, 5 minutes of Q&A, that's up to you. If you just want to do all presentation, no Q&A, we can consider that as well. But that's 40 minutes, and typically we do Q&A at the end.
Okay, perfect. And then you did mention the Cannabis 101 or Business 101 sort of track that is now coming to MJBiz what majority of that is very much like preliminary, like entry into the industry, and then what percentage of that is applicable to more advanced professionals in the industry?
I think most of it will cater to the newer folks, but as we discussed earlier, if you're moving to a new state or you're looking to expand your operations, I think that content would be applicable to those folks as well.
And I think we are winding down. Just two more. From Sabrina, does it increase your likelihood of selection if there is additional representation from your brand submitting applications on your behalf? So if asking people to submit on your behalf, um, will that help boost your chances of getting selected if multiple people are, backing you in these applications?
That's an interesting question. I'd say it doesn't hurt, but I would put more of the efforts into creating one application with all of those folks and pulling them together, as opposed to this kind of surround sound approach to it. Like if you've recruited those folks and you feel like they would be a good voice in the panel, just add them as a co-panelist in your proposal.
Got it. And last one from Guy, are speakers vetted for their expertise on a subject, which I would think that they are, but he does say many PR agencies put in great proposals for different speakers that might be underqualified. So I guess the question here is really, like, is there preference for certain speakers submitting themselves, or if you have someone else submitting on your behalf? And you like, what does that sort of change the perspective on like how qualified you are if I guess you're submitting on your own behalf, or if you're having PR agencies or other folks do it for you?
Yeah, I don't think, honestly, I don't feel like PR agencies necessarily provide a leg up per se on a topic. We receive great proposals from folks that are submitting it on their own behalf. But to get to the heart of the question, that is something that we do review when we're looking at proposals is, does this person have the credentials to discuss this topic? And that's why we ask for your LinkedIn profile so that we can, look at your resume and make sure that you've actually done the work in the industry to build up, your experience and your thought leadership. We're not just looking at the proposal, we are looking at the speaker's background.
Yeah, I think we cleaned through any of those and all of those Q&A questions. Yeah, and again, like these people can reach out to you over email, right, Chris, if they have anything after this webinar?
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to help out in any way possible. Just to reiterate, I can't provide any feedback on specific topics or help you craft the proposal, but happy to help you with anything related to the application process.
Perfect. All right, that's it from me.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. I know there were some questions about recording. We will have this recorded and we will have a link to it shortly. You also will be getting a follow-up presentation that dives into some of the topics that we covered today. But again, any questions, please feel free to reach out to Chris, and we look forward to seeing you on the stage at MJBiz in December. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.